It started a long time ago.
They are coming.
When your consciousness ends in one world, it could continue to exist in many other worlds.
There's someone who fought back.
The joke that changed everything. Wenjie facing the consequences of everything she has done. For decades, Yi has supported the San-Ti and the Earth-Trisolaris Organization, believing that humanity is fundamentally incapable of fixing itself. She once saw the San-Ti as humanity's salvation, but that relationship eventually collapses. The San-Ti discover that humans lie. To them, a liar is someone whose words cannot be trusted. And if humans can lie, then humans cannot be trusted. That realization completely changes the way the San-Ti see humanity. And it also changes the way they see Yi. The woman who once helped bring them to Earth is suddenly no longer special to them. In Yi's eyes, the beings she spent her entire life worshipping have betrayed her. But that betrayal gives her one final opportunity. Because Yi finally realizes that humanity may still have a chance. And she knows exactly who needs to hear the warning. Yi's final act of defiance. Before meeting Saul Durand, Yi makes one final move. She knows the San-Ti are watching her. She also understands that the authorities have infiltrated the Earth-Trisolaris Organization, so Yi deliberately makes herself look dangerous. She essentially tells the San-Ti that she still has an idea left, and that centuries from now, humanity and the San-Ti might face each other in a real fight. It sounds like a simple statement, but Yi knows exactly what she is doing. She wants the San-Ti to become suspicious of Saul. She wants them to believe that Saul might be connected to something important. Because if the San-Ti decides Saul must die, the United Nations will have no choice but to protect him. And that protection could eventually lead Saul toward the Wallfacer project. But Yi still has one enormous problem. She cannot simply tell Saul what the San-Ti fear, because the San-Ti are listening. So she needs another language, a language they cannot understand. And that is where the strangest joke in the entire series begins. The Einstein joke. Yi meets Saul and begins telling him a bizarre story about Albert Einstein. Einstein dies and finds himself in heaven. He is delighted because he has his violin with him. He wants to play, but the angels immediately warn him not to. They tell Einstein that God is a saxophone player and that God will not appreciate him playing the violin. So Einstein obeys, at least for a while. Then Einstein hears a saxophone playing Take the A Train. He recognizes the song, and suddenly he gets an idea. He starts playing his violin along with the saxophone. For a moment, everything seems perfect, until God appears. God destroys Einstein's violin and punishes him. And as Einstein sits there, an angel reminds him of the warning. On the surface, it sounds completely ridiculous, but Yi is not telling Saul a random joke. She is giving him a message, and the real meaning of that message is much darker. Why Einstein matters. The first layer of the joke is connected directly to Yi's own life. Einstein enters heaven carrying something he loves, the violin. Yi entered the relationship with the San-Ti, carrying her own beliefs. She believed she was doing something meaningful. She believed the San-Ti could save humanity, and she ignored warnings that told her otherwise. Eventually, the San-Ti destroyed almost everything Yi cared about. Her movement, her purpose, her relationship with humanity, and even her family. The violin therefore represents something precious that becomes destroyed because its owner chose to challenge something far more powerful. But there is another layer, and this one connects directly to one of the biggest ideas in the entire story. The dark forest connection. The dark forest theory is built around a terrifying idea. The universe may be filled with civilizations that are hiding because revealing their location could be dangerous. If a powerful civilization discovers another civilization, it may not take the risk of allowing that civilization to grow stronger. Instead, it could simply eliminate the threat. In Yi's joke, God represents that overwhelmingly powerful civilization. Einstein represents the smaller civilization, and the violin represents the act of revealing oneself. The warning is simple. Don't attract the attention of something more powerful, because once that attention arrives, there may be no way to escape. And this is where Yi's joke becomes more than a joke. It becomes a warning about the universe itself. But there is still one problem. Saul doesn't understand it, and Yi knows he doesn't. You don't like it. Saul reacts with confusion. He doesn't laugh. He doesn't immediately understand the point. And Yi asks him a seemingly harmless question. You don't like it? Saul explains that it isn't that. He simply doesn't understand why she is telling him this story. But Yi already knows the reason. She knows the San-Ti are listening. So she continues. She explains that humor is personal. Some people understand certain jokes. Other people don't. And some jokes are so private that they only make sense to two people. That sentence is the real message. Because Yi is essentially telling Saul that there are things humans can understand that the San-Ti cannot. And that difference could become humanity's greatest advantage. But how can a joke possibly defeat an enemy that can monitor almost everything? That's where the real strategy begins. The thing the San-Ti cannot understand. The San-Ti possess an enormous technological advantage. They can monitor humanity through their sophons. They can interfere with scientific research. They can observe conversations. They can manipulate information. Humanity cannot simply hide everything from them. But Yi realizes there is something the San-Ti cannot fully possess. Human imagination, human context, human deception, and humor. A joke can depend on cultural references. Sometimes, even something that sounds completely meaningless can contain an important message. That means humans can communicate in ways that an outside observer may not understand. And Yi is trying to show Saul exactly that. The joke isn't the weapon. The ability to communicate beyond the San-Ti's understanding is the weapon. And Yi knows Saul may be one of the few people intelligent enough to discover how to use it. Why Saul is the target? Yi also understands what will happen next. The San-Ti may not understand the joke, but they can recognize that something important has happened. They know Yi deliberately met Saul. They know she said something unusual. And they know Saul is a physicist. That makes him dangerous. Yi therefore expects the San-Ti and their followers to target him. And this is exactly what she wants. Because Saul's danger becomes his protection. If the authorities believe Saul is being targeted by the San-Ti, they have a reason to protect him. And that protection eventually helps push Saul toward becoming one of humanity's wall-facers. Yi is essentially sacrificing Saul's safety in the short term to give humanity a chance in the long term. But there is an even bigger question. Why Saul? Take care of Saul. Before leaving, Yi gives Saul one final warning. She essentially tells the people around him to take care of him. And then she says she hopes her joke doesn't cause him any trouble. That line is devastating once the scene is understood. Because Yi knows the joke probably will cause trouble. She knows Saul may become a target. She knows the San-Ti may try to eliminate him. And she accepts that risk because she believes Saul may be humanity's best chance. The woman who once opened the door for the San-Ti is now secretly trying to give humanity a weapon against them. And she does it with something that appears completely harmless. A joke. The real meaning of the scene. This is what makes the scene so powerful. Wenjie doesn't suddenly become a hero. She doesn't erase the consequences of what she has done. Instead, she realizes that the civilization she trusted may be even more dangerous than she imagined. So with the little time she has left, she tries to correct her mistake. The Einstein story represents her past. Einstein ignores the warning. Yi ignored the warnings. Einstein loses his violin. Yi loses almost everything. But the joke also represents the future. If humans can communicate in ways the San-Ti cannot understand, then humanity may possess one advantage the San-Ti cannot simply monitor: unpredictability. And that may be enough to survive. The joke was never the point. So when the episode presents Wenjie telling Saul an absurd Einstein joke, it is easy to see it as nothing more than an unusual moment of humor. But underneath that humor is a warning. Yi is telling Saul that humanity may survive not by becoming stronger than the San-Ti, but by becoming impossible for them to understand. The joke is a metaphor for secrecy, for deception, for imagination, and ultimately for the dark forest. Yi knows the San-Ti are listening. She knows Saul doesn't understand yet, and she knows she may never get the chance to explain it again. But perhaps that is exactly the point. Because if the San-Ti understood the message immediately, the plan would already be dead. So Yi leaves Saul with something far more valuable than an explanation. She leaves him with a question. Why was she telling him that joke? And perhaps someday, Saul will finally discover the answer. Because in Three-Body Problem, the most dangerous weapon may not be a machine, a spaceship, or even a weapon. It may simply be an idea that the enemy cannot understand. And that is why the Einstein joke may be one of the most important scenes in the entire series. That's all for today. We will see you next time.